In 2018-19, James Harden had the highest point per game in a regular season since Michael Jordan had 37 a game in 1987. He is called one of the greatest scorers of this generation, even the greatest by some people. Is his scoring that impressive?
Get your ball on.
James Harden from 2017 to 2020 averaged 34 points, shooting 45% from the field and 36% from three. Now, just straight looking at the box score and not thinking about it too much, you might think James Harden is the greatest scorer since Michael Jordan just because he's putting up 37 points per game. But is that really the truth? James Harden is not the greatest scorer since Michael Jordan, not the greatest scorer of this generation at all, and not even a top 3 scorer of his generation. Now, right now, you would think that sounds crazy. He just came off a season last season when he was averaging 34. The season before that, 36. And he's shooting pretty efficiently. But one thing people just tend to forget about is the playoffs. James Harden by no means is a terrible playoff player, and he is not a consistent choker either. But by no means is he as good as he is in the regular season. If you look at this graph, and I'm not going to show you many graphs because I ain't no nerd, I ain't trying to confuse you here. But if you look at this graph, there's definitely a different James Harden in the regular season than there is in the playoffs. James Harden's scoring output as a whole looks kind of ridiculous when you look at his 5-year peak. From 2016 to 2020, James Harden was averaging 32, 6, and 9 assists in the regular season, with a 61.4 true shooting percentage, which is very, very efficient for somebody who's averaging 32 points per game. But yet, the biggest problem with James Harden up to this point in his career has been the playoffs. In the playoffs, he still averages 29 points, good amount of rebounds, good amount of assists, but his efficiency, it drops, and it drops quite significantly. Now, this is nothing new. We see all-time greats who are not as good as in the playoffs as they are in the regular season. However, though, we don't see a drop quite like this by all of them. And I know right now I'm about to talk about some GOAT level players, but Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant were all players that got better in the playoffs, and there's even numbers to back it up. James Harden has the same problem of just being less effective in the playoffs. Is he still a superstar in the playoffs? Yes. Is he still an amazing player and a top 10 player in the playoffs? Definitely. But he's just not the same James Harden we see in the regular season. And one thing we know that James Harden has basically become hated on for is the free throws. James Harden has been amazing at drawing fouls his whole career, and in the regular season, why wouldn't you? That is the most efficient shot in the game. The more you can get of those, the easier the game is going to be on you. But let's look at the closeout game, Game 7 in 2018, where James Harden, if he wins this game, he most likely wins a championship and a Finals MVP. Let's see his shot selection. Now, all these shots that I'm showing you right now, they're not the greatest shots. James Harden, we know he can draw those fouls, but James Harden, and you know yourself, that in the playoffs, they swallow their whistle. Most of the plays and the very clutch plays and the very memorable plays would not be able to happen if they didn't swallow their whistle. And even though that's kind of disturbing, it's like, damn, we in the playoffs now and I'm not getting the same calls. It's just the truth. The NBA is an entertainment league, and in the biggest spotlight, they do not want to be showing free throws like that, because their ratings will go down. At the end of the day, in the highlights I'm showing you right now, yes, Scott Foster is a bitch. He's a trash ass official. A lot of these were fouls. But James Harden, at the end of the day, was taking early shots in the shot clock when the best idea was to go and drive into the paint. That whole series, Golden State wasn't a great rim protecting team. The one thing you can do that is when James Harden is an elite finisher. What you got to do is you got to attack the paint, bro. But you know what? We've been on his ass enough about the playoffs now. So let's get to the regular season. In the regular season, James Harden had 3 back-to-back-to-back scoring titles. But is it that impressive? Now look, scoring 34 points per game over the course of 3 years is no fucking joke. But we're going to look into why it might not be as impressive as you may think it is. In 2 of the seasons where he had the scoring title, he was either leading or running up for usage rate. What does usage rate mean? Usage rate basically means how much the team uses that player when they are on the court. So for instance, if I was like a Boban Marjanovic, my usage rate is going to be tiny because all I'm getting is like put back dunks, offensive rebounds, and maybe some pick and rolls. But if my name is Russell Westbrook, my usage rate is going to be through the roof because in 2017, Russell Westbrook was literally doing everything for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And you might see it as not that important, but usage rate really does tell a story. In those 2 seasons, and actually all those 3 seasons that James Harden was the scoring champion, he was either the player with the highest usage rate or the second highest usage rate. To put this into perspective, I'll show you some current great players with that usage rate and the same amount of field goals attempted as he did in that time period. And James Harden numbers do not actually look as impressive as they are. You can even see some players like Stephen Curry, who used to be called worse than James Harden. In those games where he has a James Harden type usage rate and the same amount of field goal attempts, he is scoring more points and shooting hell of a lot more efficient. So in the end of the day, James Harden, he's an amazing scorer to watch. He's must-see TV. I watch him all the time. But his scoring numbers are actually not as impressive. Yes, he will probably go down as a top 15 scorer ever. Yet, we got to put it into account the way that he's been scoring over the past couple years. So thanks for watching the video, y'all. I appreciate all the support I've been getting. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you new. And yeah, thank you for watching the video.